$1 each, if you'd like to get one. Jewish money, there was Jewish stamps, there was Jewish passports, but there was no Palestinian history, no Islamic Palestinian history. He's there and about to give a speech, and the representative of Israel says, please, may I make a little speech first? I want to talk about Moses. Moses was walking through the desert. The government of Hamas leaps to his feet and says, this is an outrage. I can prove that no Muslim was guilty of this. I can prove it was no Palestinian. First of all, at the time of Moses, there were no Arabs, there were no Muslims in Israel at all. And the Palestinians didn't start to exist until Arafat said, guess what? We're the Palestinians. That's a beautiful song, by the way. I don't know the words, but that is very, very beautiful.
We call on Canada's government to impose peaceful economic sanctions on Israel until it fully complies with its international legal obligations.
But the Israeli regime has also participated in this nefarious war by supporting Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorists, as well as Kurdish separatists. The nuclear weapons-bearing apartheid regime in Jerusalem also has bloody hands from its many crimes inside of Iraq, Iran, Yemen, and many other regional states. Canada's Global Affairs Minister noted that, quote, holy sites must be respected, she said. However, just like the mainstream media here in Canada, Minister Jolie's call for, quote, a de-escalation of tensions sought to blame both the Palestinians and the Israelis equally for the violence that took place at the mosque compound. But in fact, the attack on Al-Aqsa is part of a century-old Zionist plan to colonize historic Palestine, ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, cancel their culture and faiths, and Judaize the entire country. And that plan is even part of an older plan of a racist and arrogant European society to colonize and subjugate the entire non-European world. We want no more of that. I say, shame on Minister Jolie. Shame! The apartheid designation will be hard going forward for Israel to shake off as it faces boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and the kind of political isolation that the apartheid South Africa regime felt in the 1980s. Speaking of BDS, let's take the opportunity of this Al-Quds Day to salute the students of Concordia University and the universities of British Columbia and Toronto, all who voted for pro-Palestinian resolutions in the first 4 months of this year alone. To the president of McGill University. Finally, on Al-Quds Day,
Semitic to oppose the colonial and racist policies of a state that unfortunately happens to be Jewish. And
I'm encouraged by the wonderful, wonderful placards you have. Stop funding genocide. Boycott Israel. Free the children. The state is built on the ashes of the Holocaust. Canadians against Zionism. You have just wonderful, wonderful placards expressing exactly how I feel as well. United will never be defeated. And their allies are complicit in these crimes. Sad.
difference between Zionism and Judaism? Zionism is the belief that the 3,000-year-old Israel must survive. Judaism is a respect for God, a certain way of living. Well, be against the government of Syria too while you're at it.
It's about their name. Are they a Yaakov or are they a Jacob? It's about their ethnicity. Are they Ukrainian or are they Arab?
You call yourself a human rights defender? You use words like democracy and equality. You say you are a peace spreader. I say it's all hypocrisy.
We have the same slogan, shout please and roar Ukrainians, Palestinians, Iraqis, and Afghans. We are all victims of war.
I leave you in the hands of God.
When you have failed our trust and thought
This is not anti-Semitism. On the contrary, this is our love and respect for the people of Israel. Now let me tell you about our hatred. And yes, we do hate. We hate oppression. We hate suppression. We hate expulsion. And we hate exploitation. And we will continue to hate these things until the day of oppression, suppression, expulsion, and exploitation of human beings is eliminated from the face of this earth.
Israel's an apartheid state! Stop the killing! Stop the hate! Stop the killing! Stop the hate! Israel's an apartheid state! Israel's an apartheid state!
I'm glad you were not intimidated by the recent press conference by the Toronto Police. And also the disgraceful attacks on peaceful demonstrations by the Israel lobby, by fake organizations who purport to be in support of human rights. But yet, we never ever heard the Israeli lobby criticize the bombing of Gaza. We never heard him criticize the shooting of young Palestinians, the use of snipers, the apartheid road system. We never heard a word about that from this so-called human rights organizations. And rightfully so, the world was outraged, and the world condemned it, and said that this is a war crime, and they should be taken to the international criminal courts. But why was there silence when the apartment building in Gaza was bombed and blown up? When civilians were killed by the score in Gaza, and not a word out of our government, not a word out of world governments, not a word out of the Israeli lobby, who never once criticized what was happening in Israel and in Gaza. So my friends, it's so delighted to be able to see this crowd here today and not to be intimidated. Palestinians in the West Bank will be free. Palestinians in East Jerusalem will be free. And my friends, what happening is when we see demonstrations like we're seeing today, and we know that they're taking place right around the world, in Berlin, in Belfast, in Dublin, in London, and in New York, there's Al-Quds days taking place because people know this is an injustice that has to come to an end. And their government has to have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and say to Israel, no more occupation, no more apartheid policies. Set the Palestinians free, let them have a land of their own, let them have their country of their own, let them have their own culture. It is time to free the Palestinians. Thank you very much, sisters and brothers.
We faced the Ottoman Empire, the Nazi Empire, the Soviet Empire. We fought 4 wars. More accurately, you attacked us 4 major times. Each time, every time you lost.
Whose places of worship and whose lives have been occupied by Zionist apartheid occupiers. May God bless you for being here for the sake of humanity and for the sake of insanity. In our own hands and stand up for the oppressed and take the reins and struggle with ourselves and our own efforts. The political leaders, the politicians, have been sadly bought out. And most of them, many of them, are more loyal to foreign states than they are to Canada itself, and for the sake of justice and for their own constituents.
We see the Zionist state unfolding, and we see it unraveling, and we see it gradually crumbling step by step. And it is for that reason that the more it is crumbling, the stronger the purpose. Jews in all the countries where they live, including Palestine, are opposed to the state of Israel. It's a fact that if you walk through neighborhoods where high concentrations of traditionally Orthodox Jews live, Jews who dress like us, you usually won't see any Zionist flags. The state of Israel is a materialistic, nationalistic state with no connection to religion or faith. It began only with the invention of the Zionist movement. Muslims did not hate Jews or Judaism, and still don't. They are against occupation regardless of who the perpetrator is.
Shows the depravity of the Zionist regime. It shows that the cruelty of the occupation is exactly the point. It's meant to dampen our people's resistance. And we declare Al-Aqsa to be a red line. We uplift and amplify any and all resistance efforts by Palestinians, by Arabs, to the encroachment of the Zionist regime upon the mosque, upon the eternal and undivided capital of Jerusalem. بالروح بالدم نفديك يا أقصى. بالروح بالدم بالروح بالدم نفديك يا أقصى. بالروح بالدم نفديك يا أقصى. بالروح بالدم نفديك يا أقصى. We uplift the resistance in Jenin and Jenin's martyrs. Over the past month, the Zionist army has conducted multiple raids and ambushes upon the city of Jenin and Jenin refugee camp. During that time, occupation forces have murdered over a dozen Palestinians in cold blood. Shame! Shame! On April 9th, Zionist forces fired upon a bus traveling to Jenin refugee camp. They murdered an 18-year-old girl, Hanan Khudr, who was on her way to class during what was her last year of high school. Shame! Shame! Hanan's life is sacred, and every single Palestinian martyr's life is sacred. All the blood on the Zionist regime's hands does not deter our people. With each and every single life taken from us, our resolve is only strengthened to dismantle Zionism and the Zionist occupation, for however long it takes to do so, and by any and all means necessary. Even after massive explosions and reported injuries in Khan Yunis, Zionist warplanes remained over the besieged Gazan airspace, where they often perform military exercises, they terrorize our people, and they attempt to thwart the resistance and collective determinations of Palestinians in Gaza to continue their complete and unconditional opposition to the Zionist regime's existence. And we declare that Gaza remains the heart of our resistance. Yes. We salute our people in Gaza, their untold bravery and their tremendous spirit, and we uplift them as the soul of our national struggle for liberation and return. So efforts by Legal Center for Palestine, for instance, is made up of activists and lawyers that are working towards a free Palestine, inshallah.
Is about to be answered, alhamdulillah. This is not my word. This is the word of many Zionist figures who are admitting that the project of Israeli state is a failure, is not living anymore. They are shocked by the bravery of the Palestinian youth, those who were born under occupation. They thought that those young people would be bombarded by the media and they will live after their desires, forgetting about their cause. And now what we're saying, that this generation, this young man and women like you, are the key of the soon liberation, inshallah. Why? Because this illegal state was built on aggression, on military, on occupation. So when it was defeated in Lebanon in 2000, and then defeated again in 2006, and defeated again and again with many wars on Gaza, and defeated with the bravery of young men and women of the 67 occupied land, now the conspiracy is over. So no more wars. Israel cannot do any wars. So they run to make normalization with the puppet states in the Gulf. So it's like you're hiding behind someone who is weaker than you. So you're asking the spider to build you a home. And the weakest home is the home of the spider. So the puppets of the Gulf will not help you. So the only solution is to pack and leave back. This is the easiest and the clean, with no bloodshed, nothing. And our leaders, our scholars, they ask the settlers to leave peacefully. They don't want wars, bloodshed, but you should listen to the logic. You are foreigners. This land would not accept you. And you are talking now about renting islands in Greece. So if you know any ad in Kijiji about islands in Greece, the settlers are interested in renting this. So the victory is soon, and inshallah, very soon. Your voices are heard, your prayers are answered, and you will see it when we all gather, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, to pray in the Al-Aqsa with the leadership of Imam al-Mahdi Ajallah Ta'ala Faraj Sharif and all those freedom lovers. And that's why Imam Khomeini called the last Friday of Shah Ramadan the day of the oppressed, whether to be Muslim or non-Muslim. This is the day of the oppressed people. I was very admired by the energy of the sisters. So, alhamdulillah, we have sisters who are full of energy, and they will, inshallah, help their brothers to continue this path and to liberate the world from those criminals. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Love that last little bit you put there. Israel will go down. God will live in peace with Israel. We'll divide up Israel equally, and Muslims will get half.
Get out of Palestine. We don't want you guys. Nobody wants you guys. That's why you want to steal land.
How much of Israel do you want?
Free, free Palestine!
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 From the river to the sea!
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 Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the
Down with Zionism! Down with Zionism! Shame, shame, Israel!
Shame, shame, Israel!
Shame, shame, Israel!
Shame, shame, Israel!
Zionism is racism!
Zionism is racism!
Down with Zionism!
Down with Zionism! From the river to the sea!
sponsors, big sponsors of $20 billion yearly. Shame, shame, USA! Shame!